Hey folks, this is Dr. K, and this is an addendum to the Q&A from Monday, October 13th. At the end of that Q&A, and I thought that Q&A was fun. I thought it was a little bit frustrating near the end because we had a null pointer exception that I couldn't track down, and it was already 10 o'clock, so it made sense to just call it a night. But I did want to follow up with you on that, and I'm just going to run my application again and get that null pointer exception again. Okay, so there it is. Null pointer exception cannot invoke put object because the map is null. The world.map is null. But as we saw yesterday at the Q&A, we do have a world map, and there it is right there. Public static map from strings to game objects map equals new hash map. So we initialize it right away as soon as we declare it. And the problem with null pointer exceptions is they're usually easy to track down because it means we have not initialized something. But obviously we have initialized this here. But what I found after some investigation is the problem is this is a static class. The world is a static class. I mean, it's a global class with a bunch of static methods and fields. All right, and map is one of those. Current room is one of those. Inventory is one of those. Right. So what's going on? Why is it saying this is null? Okay, because obviously it's not null because we've initialized it here. The problem is with what I'm calling a static class, a class with just static members. It initializes the class in the order that these fields appear. So let's just focus on lines, these non-text fields, lines 9, 10, and let's just say 12, okay? So the first thing that gets initialized is the current room, okay? So there it is. We've got a new room, okay? The second thing that gets initialized is the world map, okay, the map. The third thing that gets initialized is the inventory list, all right? So here's the problem. The problem is that when this current room gets initialized, this room is a composite, okay? So this room constructor calls the composite object constructor. And if you remember from yesterday, the composite object constructor calls the game object constructor. Okay? And ultimately, the game object constructor is the thing we're having a problem with. And if you look here, you can see that in particular, game object line 33, where we're putting this into the map is our problem because map is null. And I even get a warning. It says find out why world map could be null. Okay, I'm not going to track that down because I know why it could be null. But this is happening because this is absolutely true that world map is not initialized here when we're creating the room. the current room, because the current room is the first thing to be created in world, okay? And it's being created before the map. And when we create the current room, it calls through to the composite, which calls through to the game object, which tries to put the current room into the map, which does not exist yet. Okay, because line 9 has not finished running. Okay, because we got a constructor calling to a superconstructor, calling to a superconstructor, and that ultimate game object superconstructor is calling as trying to put something in this map, which has not been initialized yet. So the solution, if what I said is true, should be to just take the map, and move it above the current room. Now the map is being initialized first. So does that work? Does that solve our problem? Well, let's find out. Okay, let's run this again. And notice this null pointer exception. The map is null, okay, and it discovers that at line 33 in game object where it tries to put something into the map. So let's run this again. Okay. We're still getting a null pointer exception. All right, but if you read carefully, this is a different null pointer exception. This is saying we're trying to add an object to children. Okay, so we're trying to add a child, it looks like, to children inside of let's go up here, inside of the composite. All right, so add child is the thing that's giving us an error. So I'm going to click on that, and there it is. Find out why children could be null. All right, so I'm trying to add a game object to children, and I can kind of trace that back a little further here. The composite is the one thing throwing the error, but I'm trying to add the old iron key to the, I can't remember, the hallway, right, or something like that. Yeah, the hallway. I'm trying to add the whole old iron key to the hallway, which is a composite. All right, so that's my problem, and the specific problem is right here at add child to children, and find out while children could be null. Well, this one I'm going to hold down command and click on children, see where it's declared. It's declared up here, okay, and where is it initialized? It should be initialized in the constructor. And if I look at this, yeah, it is initialized in the constructor. Okay, so children equals new array list. So the problem is that before hallway is, before the children in hallway is initialized, okay, we're trying to add something to it. Okay, and one way to deal with this, which I don't exactly know why add child, off the top of my head, I don't know why add child is being called before children is being initialized, and I could track that down, but I'm not going to. Okay, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to take this where it's being initialized here, okay, and I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to initialize it as soon as I declare it. I'm just going to initialize children as soon as I declare it. So I'm going to try that first, because if you initialize something as soon as you declare it, then it's got more of a chance of being initialized. There's nothing in between there that could potentially happen. All right, that's the logic, but as always, you have to test that logic and you have to see if it works. So let's go back to main and let's run our code. And it looks like, oh, okay, since, sorry, okay, so this is in the constructor, so since I cut that initialization, I don't need children anymore since I initialized it when I declared it up there. Okay. All right, so let's run this again. Let's go back to main. And now, finally, it works. Okay. So if I take, oops, had caps lock on, take old iron key, check the inventory, you're carrying an old iron key. All right, so that's it, folks. Interesting errors. I mean, usually null pointer exceptions are almost always because something wasn't initialized. In this case, we had initialization code for both of these objects, but things were happening before that initialization code was run. All right, in the world class, we just had to switch those. We had to make sure we initialized that map before we initialized the current room. And in the composite class, we just made sure that we initialized children as soon as it was declared. Okay, that's it, folks. That's all I got. Hope that helps. And we'll see you on Piazza, and we'll see you at the next Q&A.